There was once a city on the banks of the Euphrates that shimmered with painted walls, colossal palaces, and a library of clay tablets so vast it captured the whispers of kings, merchants, and prophets alike. And yet, today, hardly anyone remembers its name. Mari. A city that once thrived as a hub of politics, trade, and diplomacy, vanished in flames, leaving only broken walls and tens of thousands of baked clay letters. And here's the kicker. It didn't vanish because of some natural disaster or mysterious plague. No. It was deleted, erased by Babylon, in what might be history's earliest example of rage-quitting diplomacy. Welcome to the story of Mari. The city of 300 rooms, 20,000 tablets, and one very bad breakup with Babylon. Let's rewind to around 2900 BCE, nearly 5,000 years ago. The digital maps hadn't been invented, but merchants of the ancient Near East already knew how to make Mari a hotspot of global commerce. The city rose on a strategic location, the upper Euphrates, right on the crossroads of Mesopotamia, Anatolia, Assyria, Elam, and the Levant. Think of Mari as the customs checkpoint of the Bronze Age. Caravans carrying copper, tin, cedar wood, lapis lazuli, and exotic luxuries all had to pass through. If Mesopotamia had an equivalent of Singapore, it was Mari. A city small in size, but massive in influence. Where wealth flowed, and where politics brewed with every passing caravan. If there had been Uber Eats in 2000 BCE, Mari would have been the main distribution center. Fast, reliable, and occasionally spied on by Babylon. Mari wasn't just a pit stop for merchants. It was a full-fledged city-state kingdom. The king, known as the Lugal, was not just a political ruler. He was also the chief marketing officer for the gods, ensuring divine approval for every military campaign, trade alliance, or public works project. The society of Mari was sharply divided. Royalty and nobility sat at the top, controlling land, armies, and temples. Merchants prospered through international trade, forming one of the wealthiest middle classes in the region. Farmers and craftsmen provided food, textiles, and tools. And yes, there were slaves, usually prisoners of war or people trapped in debt. Mari's army was no joke either. They weren't just running around with spears. They had chariots. The Formula One of Bronze Age warfare. Imagine sleek wooden vehicles pulled by horses, carrying warriors armed to the teeth. For a while, Mari's army made sure everyone in the region thought twice before messing with them. Basically, living in Mari meant one of three things. You were a noble sipping wine in the palace, a merchant counting silver in the markets, or a chariot rider looking extremely cool. And if you weren't any of those, well, you were probably a background character in someone else's epic. If one building could define Mari's glory, it would be the Great Palace. Covering more than 6 acres, with over 300 rooms, endless corridors, courtyards, and painted walls. It wasn't just a home for kings. It was a city within the city. Diplomats from far-off kingdoms were dazzled by colorful frescoes showing gods, rituals, and everyday life. The most famous fresco depicts the goddess Ishtar handing authority to King Zimri-Lim, basically the ancient equivalent of getting verified on Instagram, divine checkmark included. But the true treasure of Mari wasn't just its palace. It was its archives. Discovered in the 1930s, archaeologists unearthed more than 20,000 clay tablets, written in cuneiform. And these weren't dusty poems or abstract myths. These were living, breathing documents, diplomatic letters between kings, administrative reports about taxes, soldiers, and grain, commercial accounts of prices, cargo lists, and merchant complaints, weather forecasts and omens, even gossip-worthy notes about political betrayals. The Mari archives are, in short, the Google Drive of the Bronze Age. Except the files are clay. There's no password protection. And yes, the storage system could survive a fire. Through these texts, we get a shockingly detailed look into ancient life. One letter might describe a marriage alliance. Another might reveal how much tin a caravan was carrying. Another complains that an ally has suddenly become suspiciously friendly with the enemy. Reading them feels less like studying ancient history and more like scrolling through leaked diplomatic emails. Think of it this way. If you ever thought political drama only existed in the modern world, Mari's archives will set you straight. These tablets are basically the WikiLeaks of 1800 BCE. Mari wasn't just a trade center. It was the diplomatic nerve center of the Near East. Its kings corresponded with Babylon, Assyria, Elam, and dozens of smaller kingdoms. They formed alliances, broke them, arranged royal marriages, exchanged intelligence, and then betrayed each other, sometimes in the same week. For a while, Mari thrived in this delicate balancing act, like a master chess player moving between empires. But being at the center of regional politics is a dangerous place to stand. One wrong move, and you're no longer the kingmaker. You're the casualty. And then came Hammurabi. Yes, that Hammurabi, the famous king of Babylon, lawgiver, empire builder, and occasional city destroyer. At first, Mari and Babylon were allies, but alliances in the Bronze Age were like ancient Facebook friendships. Temporary, shallow, and doomed. When Hammurabi decided he wanted control over trade routes and the entire Mesopotamian heartland, Mari suddenly looked less like a friend and more like an obstacle. In 1761 BCE, Babylonian armies marched into Mari. The once great palace was looted and burned. The archives, ironically, survived the flames, baked harder in the fire, waiting for archaeologists to find them millennia later. But the city itself, gone. Mari never recovered. One of the greatest centers of culture, trade, and diplomacy in the ancient world was wiped out in a single campaign. So, yes, Mari was basically unfriended by Babylon. Except Hammurabi didn't just click block. He hit delete account. Permanently. No recovery. Today, Mari is ruins in the Syrian desert. But in those ruins, and especially in its tablets, the city still speaks. Mari teaches us that the ancient world was not simple. These were not just farmers and warriors. They were merchants balancing trade, diplomats negotiating treaties, kings complaining in letters, and priests predicting the weather. Mari proves that political drama is eternal. The same kinds of alliances, betrayals, and complaints we see in today's headlines were already happening 4,000 years ago. Most of all, Mari is a reminder that no matter how grand a city may seem, it can still be forgotten. A city that once dazzled visitors with painted walls, a palace of 300 rooms, and the largest archive of its age, is now a name whispered only by archaeologists and quiet historians. Mari. Once the Singapore of Mesopotamia. Today, a ruin. But in those ruins lies the memory of a world both distant and strangely familiar.